Oh wow, look at that picture. That's a huge tunnel. What's that? The Kilsby Tunnel on the London. Good morning everybody. Today we're going to be doing another day in the life of a writer video. It's been a couple of weeks, maybe even a couple of months since I did one of these. So basically what I'm going to be doing is leading you through what a typical day for me looks like as a writer and a researcher. So if this is the first video of mine that you've ever come across, my name's Charlotte Verness. I am an author, a historian and a heritage researcher. I publish non-fiction books about women's history in connection with country houses across the UK, and I'm also an aspiring fiction writer in the process of writing my first fiction book, which is kind of based on Gothic history, kind of modern mental health set in Gothic and remote spaces. And if you're here and you've been to a lot of my other videos, I hope you're doing well in these crazy times, and I hope you're going to enjoy this new video from me as well. I had a couple of weeks off over Easter, hope you don't mind. April's actually a really busy month for me. I have 5 family and friends' birthdays within the first fortnight of April. So lots of things going on over the weekends, and I didn't have any spare time to do my YouTube videos. So we're back again, and I'm really excited to get started on this one today. I haven't done a proper day in the life of a writer for a few weeks, like I say, and it feels like something that I'm excited to get back to. So it is currently 9:25 in the morning. It's a Friday, and Fridays generally are my kind of freelance writing days. At the moment I'm working 3 days a week with a client doing marketing management. So those 3 days of my week are very set. They're working, like I say, with one client, and I kind of separate them off from my writing and researching days. I am thinking about doing like a week in the life of a freelancer. So if that's a video that you would be interested in, please can you let me know in the comments, because I can do that, and I can talk about not just writing and researching, but I can actually talk to you about what it's like as a freelancer, to manage my time, to manage my week, and how I divide up my different client work. But today, like I say, it's a Friday. This is one of my days that I get to do things that really kind of replenish me and make me feel full and happy and, what's the word? Rejuvenated, I suppose. We all do things that we have to do because we're working and we're getting money in for work and supporting our lifestyles and supporting the roof over our heads. And then there's things that if we're lucky enough we get to do as passion projects. And today's definitely a passion project day, so I feel incredibly lucky to be able to do that, especially in a time of corona when I know a lot of people are struggling. So yeah, I'm going to take you through one of my kind of ideal days in the life of a writer. This is what I do when I can plan my time completely and I can have a really exciting day doing researching and writing. So this, first of all, this is my desk space. I still haven't done a tour of my new desk space. If you are interested in having a tour of my kind of desk and my office and how I organise all my bits and pieces for doing my work, again, let me know and I can do something like that. But this is what we're working with at the moment. I tend not to focus underneath the desk because it's a little bit messier, but that's just the reality, isn't it? You have to have a bin and you have to have books and things stored underneath. So we worked well underneath. We'll dwell on the pretty stuff at the top. So I always have 2 screens. It's just something that I've found works well for me. I am completely aware that that is very privileged to have A, a Mac, and B, 2 screens. I like putting things up like YouTube videos in the background. I listen to a lot of ambient music, and then on the other screen I do my work. And also if I'm working on things like big spreadsheets, if I'm doing my annual accounts, I can do it across 2 screens. So I am aware that that is a privileged position to have, and it works well for me at the moment, so I'm very appreciative of that. And then I've got my coffee, I've got my Hufflepuff juice, and I've got a Nutri-Grain bar. Generally I start my day off like this. I usually have 1 or 2 coffees. I always make sure I've got juice on my table, on my desk, and yeah, to be honest, Nutri-Grain bars are about the best that my breakfast gets at the moment. So today I'm working on 2 things. First of all, I am currently researching and writing my third book. It's about widows and the country house. So if you don't know already, I have two books out. One is called Lady of the House, and I'll put a little picture of the cover up here. One is called Lady of the House, and it's about married women in country houses. One is called Unmarried Women in the Country House, which, as you may have guessed it, is about women who didn't marry, or women who didn't conventionally marry. Because, spoiler, there is someone in that book who I do consider to be married, but who wasn't accepted as being married within the legal framework of the times in which she lived. So then my third book is about widows, because I want to make it into a little bit of a trilogy. I'm going to have a break from writing non-fiction after I finish my third book, just because I want to focus on my fiction work, and I really, really want to finish a fiction manuscript and get it submitted to an agent this year, or early next year. So, yeah, I'm doing a little bit of research for book 3. I am having trouble finding any widows in country houses, which on the one hand is really good news for me, because it means it hasn't really been written about much in the past, which means that there's an opening for me to write my book. So I'm going to do a little bit of that today. I'm going to do a little bit of Googling to see if I can find any kind of characters or interesting people that I might want to research. And then my second work for today is working with the private estate. Now, if you've watched a few other of my videos recently, you'll know that I am working on producing a coffee table book for a private estate in Leicestershire. They don't want to be identified. Their house doesn't open to the public, and so I can't give you the name of the estate that I'm working with, but they are, yeah, it is basically a private estate. It's a 17th century house, and they have never had a full historical kind of narrative written about their house. So I'm working with them. So let me show you what books I'm going to be looking at today. So the first book I'm going to be looking over today is called The Railway Navis by Terry Coleman, and it's this beautiful original slipcover for a book which was printed in, I think it's relatively recently, the 60s. Yes, 1965, which is quite interesting because a lot of the railways in Britain were actually demolished or shut down in the 50s, I believe. This is some of the stuff that I need to research today. And so 65 is within living memory of a lot of the domestic railways being shut in England. And so I feel like Terry Coleman will have a very kind of contemporary view on the railway and railway history. So basically the private estate that I am writing for had a railway running through them during the Victorian period, and so I want to add some kind of historical context to the time in which the railway was built through the estate and what led to its downfall. So this is, oh wow, look at these pictures. These are amazing. So I'm really looking forward to looking through this book today. There's more pictures actually. Yeah, look like such hard work. Because I know from my own limited kind of experience and knowledge about railways that it was an incredibly hard job to do. Many people died, and whilst they were a travelling community, and I'm sure they had some really great times as communities and there was a community feeling, I know that they really struggled. You know, they were living in very kind of like poor sanitation, and they were actually kind of not very well treated by the villages and the towns that they went through. So look at that one, that's beautiful. Yeah, so this is one of the books. Oh wow, look at that picture. That's a huge tunnel. What's that? The Kilsby Tunnel on the London and Birmingham. I'm guessing that's London and Birmingham line. Yeah. So yeah, anyway, I'm going to shut that for now, but I also do need to do some online research on the computer, looking at some other bits and pieces, things for book 3. Just for clarification, the Railway Navis book is for my private estate client, and the book 3 research on unmarried women I will need to do on the internet. Hello. I've just been putting some dates in my diary of things that are being booked up for the next month or so. Yeah, so just been doing a couple little bits. It's now 12 o'clock, so I think what I'm going to do is another half an hour on this railway book, and then I'll catch up with you. I'm going to make some lunch, I'm going to make myself a sandwich, and I think we might go and sit in the garden. So I might bring you along with the tripod, and if I don't feel too self-conscious, I might film myself having some lunch in the garden in the sunshine. So I've finished looking through the notes on this book. I only got about 35 pages in before I'd finished the overview chapter, which is what I needed, and then I went to the back of the book and I checked the the index, to see if there were any references to Leicestershire in particular. Read those, made notes on the Leicestershire areas, and there's also a couple of books about the Midlands specifically that were mentioned in the bibliography that I've written down, so I'm going to search for those online shortly. And I'm just now flicking through the pictures. So I'm just kind of looking through the pictures, really. So there we are, that was The Railway Navis by Terry Coleman. I do recommend it. It actually is a really interesting read, and it's really easy to read as well. So I'm going to keep this to one side. I'm going to read it at some point just for pleasure, because it's quite well written, and I like a lot of historian stuff that I come across from like the 50s, the 60s and the 70s. It can be very very opinion-led and not so much source-led, and I try as much as possible to only take things that are like really heavily source based, because then you know that it's built on first-hand accounts or actual historical documents or this, that and the other. Whereas if you're reading something or note taking something that's mainly opinion based, it's really hard to be able to separate that historical context from that particular historian's opinion. So Terry Coleman did quite a good job. Obviously, I've only read the introduction. There are sections on things like death and women, the role of women within the railway navvy community, which I'd be really interested to read. So I don't know how his handling of kind of gender and the railway is written. I'll have to see when I read that fully. But yeah, I've enjoyed it so far, and I just love the fact that it's a slightly older book. It's always nice. And this was already on my bookshelf, so I haven't bought this especially. This is actually part of a collection of books that I bought last year or the year before, and yeah, like kind of historical books that I bought, and yeah, happened to have it on my bookshelf, so that's always nice as well when you can read from your own bookshelf. Right, I'm going to set the camera up and I'm going to search for these two books, The Midland Railway by F.S. Williams and The Last Main Line. So yeah, see if I can find those two online. Yes, I found a digital copy online. Yes. Oh, it's always so good. It is 726 pages long though. Oh no, it starts on page 12. Okay, so that's it. I found that one. Let's have another look at the next one. Right, so I've sent a letter off, not a letter, I sent an email off to Leicester Museums asking them if they know anything about this, the last mainline book, publication, essay, whatever, and hopefully they'll get back to me probably next week at some point about that. In the meantime, I found this Midland Railway, Its Rise and Progress book from 1876. So I'm probably not going to look through that today because this afternoon I want to get on to researching my widows for my book, but I'm going to make a note of it. I'm going to bookmark it. I don't believe that I can download a digital copy, which is a shame, but it's not the end of the world. I'll just write down the link and then I can get to it again later on. So it's now 12:23. I am hungry. And actually I've got leftover pizza from yesterday, so please don't judge me, but I'm going to eat leftover takeaway pizza in the garden. I'm going to take my book and let's go sit in the sunshine for a bit. Right, back upstairs. The wind's blown my hair about a bit. I'm sorry if my eyes look a little bit puffy. I don't know whether it was because I'm wearing a bright white top or whether the pollen count is particularly high today, but my eyes were streaming the entire time I was out there. So yeah, I've been rubbing my eyes a bit. But anyway, we're back upstairs now. So the plan for this afternoon is to do some online research, try and find some widows of country estates. So this is basically the very first step that I do when I am looking for people to include in my non-fiction books. I will just do a very kind of basic and simple Google search, or I will read through some books that are about country house people, which reminds me I need to go downstairs and pick a book off my bookcase actually, because I think that might be an interesting book to read in terms of trying to identify somebody to put in the book. So I'll go and get that in a minute and show you that book. But yeah, I Google or I look in books, or sometimes I use people that I know about already. So there is someone who was supposed to go in my very first book, and the family, the private estate that kind of own all of the archive materials about this woman, didn't grant me access at the time because they wanted to keep it private. And I can understand that to a certain degree. Not necessarily that they wanted to keep it private, but they were kind of a bit unsure about how this woman's history would be portrayed. And when you don't have like experience behind you, you can't say, well, here are the two books that I've written, read them and see if it's an acceptable kind of way of talking. It's very hard to convince someone to let you kind of just go through their archives. But because I've now got two books that I can kind of mention that I've done, and I'm also working with this private estate client, I'm hoping that they might let me write at this woman's story. So I might send them an email. I'm trying as well. Another thing is that most of the women in my second book and my first book were down south. They were southern characters, other than Anne Lister, who's based in Halifax. Everyone else is kind of quite southern based. So I'm going to try and look at like the north, the northeast and west and Yorkshire, and see if I can find any women from there, those areas. So I'm going to do that as well. I'm going to kind of focus on that area. Yeah, we'll go from there. So I'll go and get this book and I'll show you this book that I'm wanting to read. On this bookshelf, so these are kind of like these two shelves here. If you've watched my bookshelf tour video, then you'll kind of know this already, but these two shelves here are my kind of like research books and books around country houses, history, heritage, books that I will refer to within the research process. So I'm looking for gender, there we go, gender in the 18th century England. Roles, Representations and Responsibilities. Now this is a really good book. It's by Hannah Barker and Elaine Chalice. It's not focusing for some reason. Oh, there we go. And it's really good because it shows kind of case studies of women. And it's like a collection of essays all about different women throughout the 18th century. So I'm going to read that one, or at least have a look through the chapters and see if there's anybody suitable in that one. What else have we got? Got The Women's Domain by Trevor Loomis and Jan Marsh. That might be a good one. I'll take that one up as well, the woman's domain. Anything that's kind of like gender based, really, that's that one. And then I'm also going to take The Ladies of Llangollen, which is a biography book for something else that I'm doing. That's not for today. But yeah, we'll take these upstairs, back to the office, and then I'll show you the insides. So this is gender in the 18th century England, like I say. Let's see what we've got. Men about town, the puppet like of actresses, women work in the Industrial Revolution, women teachers, poor women in the parish, women in electoral politics, politician's politician, keeping up with the bon tons, a bright pattern to all her sex representations of women in imperial. Right, that's not useful. Nothing in that one that is related to what I'm writing, sorry. So let's have a look at the contents of this one. So we've got Hardwick Hall, Belton House, Saltram, The Vine, Uppock, Allington Court and Wallington. I'm going to have to read the introductions of all of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way through. You might recognise Saltram. That was featured in my second book, and also Allington Court. This was one of my main sources for learning about Anne Robinson from Saltram and also Rosalie Chichester of Arlington. So if you have read my second book and enjoyed it, and you want to read more about those 2 chapters, then do pick up this book. It's excellent. Highly recommend it. Right, I'm going to read through Hardwick, Belton, The Vine, Uppock and Wallington. Just read the first kind of paragraphs and see if any of them deal with widows. It's also not lost on me the fact that now I've come upstairs and I'm reading a book. I could have done this outside in the sunshine, but I find it easier to focus in the office. It's a workspace, so this is better. This is better for me. Right, here we go. One thing that I always do as well when I am taking notes from a book is that I will make sure to write down the citations that are mentioned within the book itself. So here I've written down a quote from this bit here, and as you can see there's a footnote number 10. So I've gone into the back of the book and I've had a look and I've written the footnote at the end of the quote itself in my notes, and I do that so that all the information that I need is actually on this page here, so I don't have to go hunting down the book that I've read when it comes to writing my manuscript later on. I can actually just refer to my notes completely, and I've just found it's a really, really useful thing to do. I've got all the information, so I'm not plagiarising when it comes to writing the manuscript later on. So I just wanted to share that because I think that's a really important tip. And as ever, you can see I'm writing in 2 colours. I've actually changed my colours around here. So earlier this morning when I was doing the private estate research, red was quote and blue was my own words. But because I'm doing book research at the moment, the likelihood is I'm actually going to be writing out direct quotes more often at the moment than doing my own writing. And as I need to be absolutely careful that I am explicitly copying quotes out word for word, because it's going to be published and because I don't want to plagiarise, I'm putting the quotes in blue just because it's clearer. I can read it easier than the red. Excuse me, what are you doing? What are you doing, puppet? Hey? You're not supposed to be putting your claws in my desk. You're making teeny tiny holes. It literally looks like no time has passed on camera, but I promise you it is now 6:20 in the evening. For the last hour and a half, I've just been doing online research for widows, just trying to Google country houses. I may have found one woman from Broadsworth Hall in Yorkshire, which is really close to where I live, so if I've sent an email to English Heritage asking like who I would need to speak to at Broadsworth Hall particularly about potentially researching a woman from that house, so hopefully they might get back to me and put me in touch with someone there, and then I can set the ball rolling on potentially writing about a woman from Broadsworth. It's quite interesting because she's a 20th century woman, and I haven't really written about anyone who lived and died within the 20th century. I mean, she died in 1988, did this woman. That's the year I was born, so it's really contemporary, which is really new for me. It's not something I've written about before. I've done a bit of a 20th century contemporary person with the private estate client, and I really enjoyed it, especially researching stuff to do with like the First and Second World War. So I think I'd be quite interested in putting her in the third book. And then yeah, I've just been kind of doing a bit of online research, going on to libraries and archives and that kind of thing. So it was just me looking at the computer, so I didn't film it. I feel like I've already got quite a lot of footage from today anyway. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave this here for now. It is literally 6:20. I'm going to tidy up my desk and I'm going to go and get myself a glass of wine. I'm going to put on a cardigan and I'm going to go and sit outside in the garden. I'm going to read my book for a bit. So I really hope you've enjoyed this video, this Day in the Life of a Writer video. These videos are always popular, so you know that there's going to be another one coming at some point in the future. And if you've got any video suggestions or things that you'd like me to discuss, please let me know in the comments and I will see you soon. Oh, and if you want to support the work that I do and you want to see me continue this way, then please do consider buying me a coffee, because it really helps me out. Thank you so much to the people who have already bought me a coffee. You guys are amazing. Every little helps, and it really makes a bit of a boost to my confidence as well. So thank you so much. Right, I'm going to get off. Hope you all have a really great day wherever you are. Stay safe, keep wearing your mask, get your vaccine when they ask you for it, and yeah, I'll see you at some point in the future. Bye guys.